Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I have David Lykken on the show today. David, thank you so much for being here with us.
Good to be here. Thank you so much, Chris.
Excellent.
Congratulations on the success of your podcast, too, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. It's due to incredible guests like you being so gracious. So
Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Now, so before we get started, could you give our listeners just a little bit of your background? How did you get into the business and just your story up until this point?
That's always good. Yeah, I think it's good to, especially as you get to know people, what is their story. So I got involved in mortgage lending right out of college, not because it was a dream or a desire of mine. I graduated, didn't have an idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I went to what my advisor was my dad, was a big influence in my life. And unfortunately, he's passed on, but he says, son, until you figure it out, why don't you go to work for a bank? At least you're going to learn how to balance your checking account. You struggled with that in college. I didn't have the idea of fine. I wasn't the most fiscally responsible in college, I guess. But anyway, so I went to work for a bank. They tried me behind the teller counter. That didn't work. They tried me at all these different positions. That didn't work. But they said, before we get rid of this guy, let's start him in this new thing called the mortgage banking division. And this is 1973. So that was 49 years ago. And I just hit it. And I was young. I looked young. I was immature in my physical appearance. So only way I looked like a high school kid going out and trying to get mortgage loans. And so only way I could do it is get turn down business. So what happened was I asked for the turn downs. I was able to get a couple of those done when you start doing that. And some of those initial first loans, Chris, are people I still have relationships with.
Wow.
The impact I had on their life, and actually they had on my life. So 49 years later, I'm still in the business because of what we do, helping people get into homes.
That is incredible. And so fast forward for me now. What does the business look like? Do you have a team? What is the structure of the organization that you've built?
Okay, so we built 3 mortgage banking companies. I started a software company, one of the first LOSs out there in the market. So I started that went public. I didn't go through the whole journey with that, but I went back into mortgage banking. Eventually wanted to open my own mortgage banking company, opened up 3 of them back to back in Southern California. And it was a deliberate choice to get into and become an owner operator of your own independent mortgage banking company. So I had 2 in San Diego and then one up in Orange County. I partnered with one of my customers, and they were a broker. I created a mortgage banking operation inside their operation. That was the last one. We sold that at a 20 times multiple, which is unheard of. And then I came home, told my wife I was retired, and I was retiring. And she goes, "That's great. What are you doing next?" Said, "I'm retiring." She goes, "No, honey, what are you doing next?" Third time she asked me the question, Chris, I figured out in my lightning fast mind that she wasn't too excited to have a full-time husband at home. So I started consulting 22 years ago. And so I found my deal. I absolutely love the size of my organization is we've got about 11 people strong right now. I have 3 people in the Philippines that serve and help me on the administrative side of the business.
Okay.
And I have consultants that I work with across the industry and across all the various disciplines of mortgage lending.
That's amazing. And so what would you say is your perfect customer?
Well, the perfect customer is anyone who's needing mortgage advice. I think the perfect customer is someone who quickly recognizes or thoroughly recognizes, another way to say it, I guess. So I'm trying to find the right words to say it, but recognizes deep in their heart they don't have all the answers. The ones that the least likely are the ones they think they know it all. They think they have it down. Mortgage lending is a very complicated business. It's simple in the sense, Chris, as you know, with all your guests that you interview, it's a relationship-driven business. But beyond that, there are some nuances about how we put these together, these loans, and what's going to make you either successful or not. So I found a way to communicate the products effectively, and I became a top salesperson kind of overnight, but through a process.
That's amazing. And so do you find that still works today? That process that you found in order to actually sell the product to the consumer, does that still work as well today?
Absolutely. In fact, more so today now, because you look over the last 10 years or so, we've had an easy street, Chris. We've had the lowest interest rates of all time. We've really not needed any other product than a 30-year fixed rate or a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. And what is it to sell those? How difficult is it? you know, what is your rate? It became a service game. Who can provide the best service? Who can communicate effectively? But when it came to explaining the product, it was a generic product, but not much to explain to a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. But when you start getting into adjustable rate mortgages, you step into step programs like the 3-2-1 buy down, or get into the GPM mortgage, FHA mortgage, VA mortgage. And all of a sudden, you better have a skill set to explain that effectively to the consumer that's in front of you. Or you're going to struggle in this business, especially in this time. You've got to become an expert on products as well as being really good at your relationship skills.
And are you willing to share kind of like what your framework is or your philosophy behind that presentation of product and how you do that to your customers?
Well, when we were back in, if this sounds like I used to walk through 5 miles through the snow to go to school kind of thing story, we did do mortgage loans at 18, 19, and I did some at 20%. It's unheard of. So when I hear that interest rates are high right now, I'm going, they're still single digits. Now I'm looking at the bond market and the treasury, it's how it's trading right now. And we're having one of those days on the day we're recording this. That is unfortunately an ugly day, one of the ugliest days in the market. We're watching interest rates shoot up. So we have got to go back and learn how to sell these products. So I go into, most important, people want to know, what is the payment? How, if I go into adjustable rate mortgage, they heard so many negative things in the last housing crisis about the adjustable rate mortgage. And then you explain that effectively. So there's 2 aspects of it that I always explain, is the amortization. And when we used to have negative amortization, we don't have much of that anymore, although we're seeing some unique products coming back. That too may come back. But there is a place for that type of product when you have a strong appreciating home price. When home values continue to increase and at the rates they have, a negative amortization loan actually could make place if you help people get into the home and they can understand the steps up in the payments over a period of time. And when you explain that to them thoroughly and they look at it, then there is a better chance you're going to land them because you're going to be most knowledgeable. So I always graft. I'm a picture guy. I see things in pictures. I explain things in pictures. So I explained, here, your mortgage is starting here. And it's going to step up to this. And then I drew it out on a sheet of paper. And this is the kind of money. And I really made sure they understood it. So when they came to the second and third years and when those adjustments were taking place, they were prepared for it and they could go back to those notes and those sheets of paper. So that's how I did it. And then I always explained the amortization, showed how it worked. If it was some back in the days when we had the neg am, I showed how your actual balance is going to go up. I explained the part of the payment that you're not making gets tacked onto the premium. So it's explaining this in a real detailed way. So I believe that's going to be a skill set that's going to mark the successful loan officers in this particular cycle that we're going through. Yeah. That and leadership, being a positive lighthouse, a beacon of hope, a beacon of why you should get out and sell. Don't focus on the negative, eliminate the negative, focus on the positive. You say, what's positive about this market? Well, you look at this market and you look at the demographics, Chris. You look at how many people do not own a home today and are ready and need to buy a home as they start getting married and having families. The millennials and Gen Zers is what the demographic group I'm talking about. Yep. That is going to have such a powerful effect. So housing is we're very bullish on it, very bullish on the mortgage industry and what our need in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I was looking this morning, and I think across the entire country, home prices year over year are still up over 12% year over year.
And you can't sustain that, which means incomes are not going up at those levels. So how are you going to get people in those homes? Well, this is where an adjustable rate mortgage will allow people to get in. Now, you do have the adjustment periods. Now, you're saying, well, what if I can't keep that home? What if I can't afford those payments? Should we have interest rates continue to go up? I believe that this is a aberration in the market. I believe that there's going to be more downward pressure. I think we're going to see some pretty significant market adjustments coming in, especially in equities. I'm looking for some major events happening on Monday, October 24th, or around that time, where we're going to see things get much, much worse, economically speaking. And you got to ride the storm. You've got to see the big macro picture as you go through the micro turmoil that we're going through right now.
Huh. That's so wise. And it comes from, I
It's
think.
been around for a long time. I think it's more experience than wisdom. It's just comes, well, wisdom comes from experience of being around.
That is so true. Now, you mentioned technology. And in your experience, what's your opinion on how technology has changed the mortgage business, and
Oh,
where do you think the future is going?
well, first of all, technology is here to stay. It's an integral part of it. It will never replace the relationships part of the business. One of the advertisers of my podcast is Total Expert. We have a couple others that are real big on working and enabling the loan officer to effectively do a better job of communicating and staying in touch. So that's an example of a real strong technology that can help people in the relationship side of the business. So I believe technology, the right selection of technology is key to the future. I also believe that it is the technology you use that is where the key. And I see so many people having, like one particular CEO said, I have technology indigestion, and it's because they bought up everything out there and they never really got it implemented effectively. So the key is to use whatever technology you have. There's always something new and coming out that's better, but first, make sure you're using what you've got. But it's going to be a game changer, and more technology is coming. That's going to be even more so. So you better know technology and be up on it.
Yep, I could not agree more. And from a consumer's perspective, do you think that we're moving into a market where consumers are going to be tech enabled at the beginning of the process, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to be more online?
Yeah, by the fact that we see mostly Gen Zers and millennials are the biggest group that do not own homes. It's the largest demographic group, which is the reason I'm so bullish on this. And what do we know about them? They're online. They've never known a day in their life that they haven't been holding some type of electronic device. Yeah. They access this. What's also interesting, millennials, we all see in the studies, they want to talk to a professional, but it's not when I started. I'm a baby boomer. When I got a hold of a realtor. She started showing me houses. Well, now the millennials and the Gen Zers or anybody could grab their phone and start shopping for a home using Zillow or any one of the online platforms that will help you select a home. I tell the story and accentuate this home because I was flying into Austin, where I live, in the Austin area, flying home from Boston. There was a couple on the plane with me, and they were just so excited. And you could tell something was going on in their lives. So I picked up a conversation, and they actually asked me the question, do you live in Austin? I go, yeah. I said, how long you lived there? I said, yeah, this long. We moved here from Southern California after we sold our mortgage company. We love it here. And they go, tell us about it. I said, well, why? He said, well, we just bought a home here. And I said, oh, that's so exciting. Is this, how many times have you been here? He says, we've never been here. I said, let me see if I have this right. You've never been here before. This is the first time your feet are landing on Texas soil. That's right. And you already have bought a home? Yeah, we bought a home. I said, tell me about this. And what they did is they went on with some of the online home searches. Chris, they searched for a home first. They hired homes, and they narrowed it down to 3 primary cities. Then they started looking at that, and they hired, get this, an Uber driver to drive his cell phone around, mounted on the dash, and they drove through neighborhoods. They had him drive through neighborhoods.
No way.
They picked out their neighborhood by an Uber driver having his camera facing forward. Stop. Well, look at that house. What about this one? What about that one? Then they found the house they wanted. Now, it was listed through a realtor, so they ended up going through a realtor to actually buy it. But it wasn't until they had found the house, they had driven around, they identified the city, the neighborhoods, the actual home, and they had already applied for a mortgage loan. So we have got to get good at technology, because the millennials and the Gen Zers go about this process significantly different. We need to be there at the beginning of their journey. And there's a lot of new technologies going to enable to make that happen.
Yep. I couldn't agree.
Story though. That's it.
Oh.
I mean, I'll never forget that. I'm going like, this is so unique. And he goes, and then I asked him about it. I've stayed in touch with him, been friends with him. And he says, I think this is the way of the future for your industry. So fascinating.
That is absolutely fascinating. And it's not, okay, Uber driver, that's unique. Yeah. But, Google Earth, Google Maps, and people going on and getting that market data on the schools and all of that sort of thing. I mean, there's all kinds of online discussion groups of people that are from specific places that are educating people about where to move, where not to move. Yep. Incredible.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We got to be up on these tools, and it'll give you a real advantage if you are. And then knowing your products, be able to explain the products.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
Now,
think another feature that I should point out is what's really interesting of all, millennials. There's a website called the Millennial Disruption Index out there, and really interesting. Google that and bring up all the sites. The three most least loved, the number one least loved brand in the industry is large national banks.
no way.
They do not want it. They just have an aversion to them. They rather deal with a community bank or credit union or something like that, or a smaller independent mortgage banker or a mortgage banker that is in then knows that community well. That's where they'd rather go, and they're not going to contact you right out of the gate. So B of A, Bank of America, saw this as a problem, and they read the Millennial Disruption Index, and they started creating all these videos that are really informative and helpful to help consumers through. This is applying for a mortgage. This is what the process is all about. And they're winning the game right now as a result of getting the initial engagement with the millennial, with the consumer, because of the products that the videos they put up on their website. That's another interesting fact. So pay attention to it.
Absolutely. And we talk all the time about being the mayor of your local community. And when it's not just about mortgages, it's about the school system. It's about where to go to eat. It's about what clubs and, what amenities are available in that local marketplace, because people are making large, massive moves right now.
Yes, they are. Yeah. They
So
really are.
let's tie it from technology back to something that you said, that the technology is never truly going to replace that one-to-one relationship and the relationship part of our business. So for loan officers, what's your advice on how to connect with that customer, how to stay in touch, and how to properly market to their database?
Oh, that's really, really good. And I think the target, we don't ignore the realtor or the builder. You should absolutely be getting to know them, reaching out to them, knowing and tracking what they're doing on social media. Like you said, become the mayor of your community and know who are the participants there, but also recognize that the consumer, the millennials specifically, and the Gen Zers are first going online to start this buying process. So the best way to do that is have lots of information up on social media, be published out there on the local newspapers. They do go to the websites. They don't pick up the newspaper but they pick up the local websites and they look at that. So do you have a presence in your community? And be almost like the mayor of you playing off of your suggestion, be the mayor, but the social media mayor of what's happening out there. So if you're there and more present than other people, then you're going to get a greater chance of capturing them. Then the other thing I say is, how are you authentically showing up? What is your authentic self? People will resonate with you if you're being authentic. If you're trying to be someone else, they're not going to. So I think this is a combination of technology, using videos to tell your story well, revealing how you are, but be comfortable with yourself. Don't try to imitate someone else. Who are you? What is unique about you? Tell that story. And as you do, you're going to draw, I refer to it as your people, your customer. You're going to resonate with them. And they're going, I'm just drawn to you. I can't tell you why. I'm just drawn to you.
That's such incredible advice. And on social media, I have so many mortgage lenders that come to us, and we help with digital marketing, but a large part of our business is making the phone calls to connect with their past clients and their past customers, because a lot of people come to us and they don't know what to say. And they're scared of social media because they just don't feel comfortable getting out there. And that advice of just be yourself, like just let yourself shine, is so powerful.
There's so many ways you can go about it. One of my favorite stories is a person who came out to me after I do a lot of conference speaking, and came out to me and she goes, I hear what you talk about the videos, but look at me. I am, and I didn't agree with her terribly, but overtly, but she was not the most attractive type person. In fact, you would put her on the other side of it. But she had her daughter there, and her daughter was just as cute as anything. So I said, why don't you take your daughter and you video your daughter at an open house interviewing buyers that are going through there. And who can resist talking to a cute kid with a mom holding her iPhone with a microphone and hand it to her daughter? And she'd walk up and she was so bubbly. She captured more business off of that idea. Use the assets you have, use the assets of your family, use what you have. Personally, I also tell her, get in front of the camera, because people are more interested in your personality, what you could do, than how you sound or how you think you look.
Yep. Yeah, I could not agree more, David. That's incredible advice. Now, if you, I may, and thank you again for being so generous with your time.
Oh yeah.
A lot of what's driving the market today is real estate agents. You know, we're in a purchase-based market. If there's business out there to get, it's in the purchase market. I saw another statistic this morning: 89% of sales that happen in the United States happen with a real estate agent. So if you're gonna go get that business, it's happening in that real estate market. So do you have any tips for loan officers that are looking to generate relationships with realtors and other partners?
Yeah, the number one thing, knocking on a door saying, do you have any business? Do you have any business? That is the worst thing you could be doing in this market. Showing up and asking how you can serve them, how you can help them. Is there anything, even if you have it struggling on another with a package with another lender, let me come in and help me, let me help you get that loan done at that lender. And so I actually have heard that being done. I've suggested that, and there's things. And so they dove in and helped that other lender. They created some insecurity with that loan originator, because they're going like, how is that another loan originator? Is they're out gaming me here at my own game? Well, they won that relationship over. Be the most knowledgeable and come in and be willing to serve. Don't be asking, where's my business? That is the worst thing. I had Jessica Peterson on, who is a very successful realtor in Florida. Jessica says, Dave, she called me one Sunday and she goes, Dave, what's going on with the mortgage industry? I get all these people calling me. It's annoying. And all they ask is, I hear you're a top producer. What is it going to take to win your business? And she goes, I understand the question, but what a stupid question. Why don't you come in and says, how can I serve you? What can I do? Do you want me to help put up signs for you? Do you want me to go out and do through your actions what your words were trying to communicate? Yes, you want business. If you're going to help them set up signs, do they think they're just going to do that and not expect something for it? But when we come with a servant leader's heart, we come to serve people. We come with information. Can I help you with, explain? Do you have any borrowers that are on the fence? I have let me show you my system of how I can explain things. I would love to explain some of these other products that are out there. So those are just some examples. Servant leadership, come to serve, not to take. Are you a giver or a taker? Probably best sums it up.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Well, again, David, thank you for being so generous with your time. I know we're going to have some people that absolutely love this episode. How do they find out more about you, your podcast? Where would you like to send people where they can get to learn more about you?
Well, thank you, Chris, for having me on your podcast. People go check out my podcast. It's Lykken, Lykken, on lending.com. Last name Lykken stands for, in Norwegian, is good fortune. So if you want to have some good fortune in real estate, come on over to the Lykken on lending podcast.com. And then also LinkedIn is probably one of the most effective ways to connect and communicate. I do more communication through LinkedIn these days. And again, it's David, Lykken.com. You can go to my Facebook page and connect with me there, but LinkedIn is the best way.
Fantastic. And we will have all that information in the show notes. Folks, if you enjoyed this, head on over to iTunes, hit us with a 5-star rating and review. It helps us get more incredible guests like David on the show. And if you're seeing this on social media, hit us with a like, comment with the thing that you got the most value from on today's episode, and make sure that you share this with everybody in the industry, because we're all in this together. And as we all get better, we all grow. So David, again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris. It's a joy to be with you.